Yes, We Are the Villains Now, and it's about to get worse. I'm responding to a post by Adam Kinzinger, the former Republican congressman, who asked this question no current Republican politician appears to be willing to ask out loud for fear that Musk or Trump or some other right-wing billionaire will use Citizens United to, blow them out of the water politically by dumping millions of dollars into a primary. He says, as I watch the behavior of our political leaders, the comments of an ever-increasing unhinged Trump, and the growing indifference of many Americans toward our role in the world, I have to ask a painful question. Are we now the bad guys? It's a hell of a question. Our nation's founders overthrew a king starting in 1776 and paid a huge price for it. Altogether, 17 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were wiped out by the war they declared. When they signed that document, which said we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, that wasn't just rhetoric. It was a statement of fact. The moment that they signed that document, each one of them legally became a traitor and was sentenced to death by the ruler who controlled their lands and their homes. One of the wealthiest of the signers was a guy named Thomas Nelson of Virginia, but the year after signing the Declaration, the British had seized his home. When he and George Washington attacked the British in his hometown, Nelson encouraged Washington to attack his own home with cannons because British General Cornwallis had taken over his home as his headquarters. The house was destroyed, and after the war, Nelson, who had borrowed against his home to help pay for the revolution, was unable to repay the loans and died in poverty at the age of 50, lost everything. The wealthy Philadelphia merchant Robert Morris lost 150 ships at sea in the war, wiping out his small fortune. He died destitute. Signer William Ellery of Rhode Island similarly lost everything, as did Virginia's Carter Braxton and Benjamin Harrison, Pennsylvania's George Clymer, New York's Philip Livingston, Georgia's Lyman Hall, and New Jersey's Francis Hopkinson. The British destroyed New York's Francis Lewis's property and threw his wife into such a hellhole of a jail that she died 2 years later. 3 of South Carolina's 4 signers, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., and Arthur Middleton, were captured by the British and held in a filthy, unheated prison and brutally tortured for a year before George Washington freed them in a prisoner exchange. New Jersey farmer John Hart's wife died shortly after he signed the Declaration, and his 13 children were scattered among sympathetic families to try to hide them from the British and the conservative loyalists. He never saw them again. He died alone, racked with grief just 3 years later. New Jersey State Supreme Court Justice Richard Stockton took his wife and children into hiding after he signed the Declaration, but conservatives loyal to the crown turned him in. He was so badly beaten and starved in the British prison that he died before the war was over. His home was looted, and his wife and children lived the rest of their lives in paupers. Altogether, 9 of the men in that room died. 4 lost all of their children as a direct result of putting their names to the Declaration of Independence. Every single one of them, all 56, had to flee their homes. And after the war, 12 returned to find only rubble. Every one of them, just like, by the way, every soldier in our military right now, were willing to fight and die for the idea of democracy in America, because in 1776, it was just an idea. And now, after 236 years of existence, Donald Trump wants to, bow to Putin, tweets a picture of himself with a crown on, a gold crown. America is on the verge of becoming an entirely different type of nation. We've pretty much always been on the side of democracies. I realize we've had some failures along the way, but by and large, we fought against the fascists in World War II. We defeated them. We created strategic alliances in Asia and Europe. We led the fight to create the United Nations. And now we're joining Russia, this century's dictatorial imperial power. Next Monday is going to be the 3rd anniversary of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. Marco Rubio, a couple of years ago when he was a senator, said, and I quote, "Vladimir Putin is an authoritarian thug who is accountable to no one. I don't think that what Vladimir Putin exhibits is leadership. I think what he exhibits is thuggery, and we should be clear-eyed about that. At the end of the day, Hillary Clinton was part of the single biggest blunder ever when it came to Vladimir Putin, and that was the reset with Russia," end quote. Yeah, blunder, being nice to Putin. Today, Lil Marco is talking about the incredible investment opportunities in Russia. If you're a billionaire, if you're a big American corporation, hey, we're going to open the door. Lindsey Graham, just last year, stood next to Zelensky in Washington, D.C., shaking his hand and saying, quote, "You're the best kind of ally. You fight the Russians so we don't have to." Today, Graham, like every other House and Senate member, Republican, except for Thom Tillis, who had the courage to speak out yesterday afternoon to a largely empty chamber of the Senate. Today, Graham has been cowed into a terrified impotence, unwilling to do anything to stop or block America's new dictator-friendly, democracy-hostile foreign policy. Our military is being purged along hard-right ideological lines, as was the Department of Justice. The FBI is next, although reports suggest that's already started. Virtually every major government agency is under attack by the DOD. The American government is being crippled. And Putin, no doubt, is ecstatic. In fact, that's what we're hearing from Russian media, is that Putin is so happy with what Trump and Musk are doing right now. I mean, even our defense budget is scheduled to be cut with a chainsaw. At the very moment that Russia and China represent the biggest threat they've ever, at least in my lifetime, ever represented to the United States. They shut down children's cancer research, Alzheimer's research, food and drugs for the world's poorest people. They're laying off FAA employees at a time when planes are falling out of the sky. They're gutting the staff that processes your Social Security tax and Medicare payments. They're tearing our government apart, apparently with the goal of replacing it with something quite different than America has ever experienced before. An entirely new America, a royal America, an America of, by, and for the morbidly rich. One that resembles the vision that petro-billionaire David Koch laid out in 1980 when he ran for vice president on a platform calling for the end of all federal agencies, essentially, except the Pentagon. And they're doing it as fast as they can, wrecking our country, because they know if they were to do it piecemeal, if they were to do it step by step, we'd stop them. Our media and our free speech rights are under attack. Trump has sued all three major networks. The new FBI director has sued a Substack newsletter writer for millions. Trump even sued a small Iowa newspaper and their pollster. Chuck Schumer and Robert Garcia both spoke out against this, and now one of the U.S. attorneys has written threatening letters to both of them. Schumer went to the floor of the Senate to apologize for having said about the Supreme Court in the Dobbs decision, quote, "You've released the whirlwind and you will pay the price." Republicans could stop this. Every soldier in the American military is willing to die for this country. And yet these Republicans aren't even willing to raise their voices. When Rhode Island's Stephen Hopkins signed the Declaration of Independence, he remarked to his friend William Ellery that my hand trembles, but my heart does not. But Virginia's Benjamin Harrison, who weighed nearly 300 pounds, said to Massachusetts' Elbridge Gerry, the guy that we named gerrymanders after, who was a short, thin man, he said, "With me, the hanging will be over in a minute, but you'll be dancing in the air for an hour after I'm gone." Will any Republican in today's House or Senate, the bodies that those men created, will any Republican find even a fraction of the courage of those who founded this nation? The people of America, and frankly of the world, are holding their breath, waiting for that answer. 17 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with you. Stay tuned.